Right, welcome to episode 6 of the Bear Tiger podcast. A very golfy podcast, this one.
Very golfy.
Very golfy. Let's do the intros. With us this week, Big Nige. How are you?
I'm well. Yeah, I had a great week. I actually did watch a lot of golf. Really enjoyed it. Not much going on. My missus made me pack to go to Disneyland tomorrow with the kids in Paris.
You are taking the kids?
I'm taking the kids. Well, the biggest kid of all of them is the missus, to be honest. She was very excited. Can't wait to get on the rides.
Sit on Mickey's knee.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm not looking forward to it too much, to be honest. I'm not a fan of the rides, but got to take the kids on holiday. They're excited. The missus is excited. It's all good points.
So how many days are we losing you for?
Just 4.
Just the 4 days, okay.
That's more than enough at Disneyland, isn't it?
Yeah. You ever been to it?
I've been to Disneyland Paris, actually, yeah.
Have you?
I have, yeah.
No spoilers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let's intro James. James Slate, had a nice week, pal?
Had a good week, really good week. Yeah. Struggling a bit with the old hay fever, but back on track. So,
No sniffing into the mic.
yeah.
So come on then. So it sounds like you got a story for us from Disneyland Paris.
I went to Disneyland Paris when I was about 12 or 13 years old, and my grandparents took me, probably to my parents' delight. And I clambered out of the pool at the New England Harbour hotel. It was a lovely hotel. And there was this weird sort of sheet of metal hanging out, sliced right between my big toe and the toe next to it. So as my grandmother's frantically sort of throwing her arms around, we go off to a Parisian hospital in the back of an ambulance.
Parisian,
Parisian, same thing. Tomato. Anyway, all said and done. First and foremost, I was sitting there and there was a Frenchman who evidently had an interestingly quite abrupt night out and was clambering around with a bottle of something, and they were just taking ages to see to him, and he was pushing around this poor old woman who was about 87 years old, sort of almost looked like she was sort of saying goodbye to us all. And he was just pushing into her bed, like, screaming and hollering in French. And this poor woman's bed was just rocking from side to side. And I was starting to get really scared sitting in my little wheelchair. And then after they dressed it and sent me back and told me that they weren't going to cut my toe off and I could wear some clean underwear again, I then had to go to the medical centre at Disneyland Paris to get it redressed every day for a few days. And it was only at this point that I realised that all of the life had been sucked out of me, because Mickey Mouse wasn't actually a young mouse. It was a 35-year-old with a stubbly beard smoking a fat one round the back in between shifts. So all of the Goofies and Mickeys and Minnies and Daffies were all sort of...
All chain smokers.
All beheaded on the Marlborough Reds, just sort of saying, oh, where are you working next? Oh, I'm at the right side of the park. Got kicked in the knee by a 6-year-old, so I'm not rushing back there. But... yeah, so that was my experience.
That sounds like we've got the LIV golf sorted for the week then. That's that round up done.
Absolutely, yeah. When they work your way to Orlando, you'll see all these lads just giving it the big ones.
Nice. All right, so we'll roll straight from Disneyland Paris straight into some PGA Tour golf, shall we?
Oh, what a week as well.
Yeah, what a week. I mean, I had an amazing Sunday. 3 of my favourite golfers winning and one of them being Tony Finau again, back to back.
That was amazing.
Yeah, I was really pleased for him because obviously people do get on his back a little bit about he should win more, and he's happy to back his way into a top 10, or looks like he's been in contention but he hasn't. But he looked like a very different Tony Finau this week. After he was the first player in 4 years since Dustin Johnson to win and then be leading or co-lead after the first round the following week. So he really stamped his authority quickly, and then he just looked like he owned the tournament from start to finish.
I mean, I thought it's really difficult, isn't it, to win, then win straight away again and look that much more impressive the week after. And some of the stats that were coming out of, he hit 66 out of 72 greens in reg this week. That is mental.
That is good.
And I think we mentioned last week on the show, he's recently had a putter change, and he's obviously given him a load of confidence, because I think that might have been the part of his game where he's not been quite clutch enough. He's always been such an elite ball striker, hits it miles, and he's just started sinking a few putts, like that one around the turn. He held that deep one at 12 from sort of across the green
in the last round.
Yeah,
he had a good little run. He hadn't dropped a shot all week, and then he got to 9 and played one of his only real poor shots, like really bad shots in the last round, pulling it on the par 3, then chipping it kind of 12, 15 feet past, and then obviously boxed it coming back, and then goes to, then holds a good putt at 10, and then he did finally eventually drop a shot at 11, and then backed out with a 35-foot bomb on 12, and it was just okay. Yeah, he's got this done now.
And that was the hole, wasn't it? I think a lot of that was that not the hardest hole on the course all week 12? So people might have thought, oh, maybe he's having a shaky period. We can rein him back in. And then he goes and makes sort of one of 8 birdies a week on that hole or something. Yeah, draining one across the green. So just really, really impressive. He looked super composed. His family looked like they all contribute to everything. His wife went in and surprised him the night before and they went out for dinner and then she's at the green at the end. It's like, yeah.
He's in a good place mentally, isn't he? And he's just crushing it.
Yeah, they were saying that on the PGA coverage that, you know, there's been a lot of talk around players who are in their 20s and they're really coming through. But now Finau's hit like his really early 30s. He might have just found his place in this sort of element of composure now where they think he's going to make a real run at the top 10 in the world.
Yeah, and he has a young man's game. He can live it with any like early 20-year-old coming through out of college. You know, he can send the ball long, he can move the ball both ways. He's obviously now found something that clicked with his putting. And, you know, we just hope that he then carries on this form. He did look different this week. He did look like he felt he was the best player. I think this kind of all started back at the Ryder Cup. I think he come out of himself at the Ryder Cup a little bit and was probably around those players and looked around and actually thought, I actually belong here and I'm as good as all these players, if not better. There's not many people in the world of golf who can do with the golf ball what he can do. And I think that's been a bit of a slow realisation to this point. And I think last week he actually said in his interview, he was a bit annoyed, a bit pissed off that he finished the way that he did.
Yeah.
17 kind of clattered it over the green and it came bouncing back. Having hit the bleachers, came bouncing back, nearly went in the water, but it was a bit of a safe long left shot. And then you know, the par 5 last hole, hit it in the water, make a bit of a messy bogey. Yes, a win is a win, but you know, he obviously had a bit of a point to prove. And he just looked like he was just in control. Like he just looked so focused.
The score showed he was in control. I mean, I didn't watch too much at the beginning, but were you watching thinking he might blow up? Or was
No. I think after last week's win, I think he had just put a layer in, and you could tell. And he said it in his interview, and I think it was actually really showing that he said I was going to win with distinction this week. I was going to properly prove that this is my place.
Right.
And I think it was super telling. I just thought he was
elite.
elite.
And he got the scoring record.
Yeah.
His previous scoring record was 25 under, so he surpassed that. Just
he is on the top of his game.
Funny
Brilliant
story
golf.
Coming back to the point around the 20-year-old Zed, because obviously, I mean, he is like a solid mid-180 ball speed player, isn't he? But I remember a story you told me, I think, did he not play on the Challenge Tour, his brother back in the day, and they just sent it into orbit? I mean, he's really reined it back, hasn't he?
When I first turned pro, long time ago, we played the Scandinavian Masters, and he was friends with Jesper Parnevik, him and his brother. His brother's called Gipper, which is quite interesting. I'd never heard that name before. And they both like absolutely were smashing it on the range, just hitting balls, and they were getting interviewed and they were like hitting these shots and they were carrying it like 330, 340, 350. And that was, you know, early-ish 2000s, which is a very different time to now for how far you hit it. So they were flying it 60 yards, 50 yards further than everybody else. And there was a hole, the first hole was about 395 yards and there was a ditch at like a bit of water at about 330. And we were like laying back, hitting like, you know, 2 irons, 3 woods, and hitting 9 irons to the green. And they were just sending it up onto the front apron, just taking the water out of play, just pinging it straight over. And everyone was like, what is this sport that these two guys are playing? And they were quite young. I think they were around about 15, 16, 17, so they were quite young. And then we didn't hear from them for a bunch of years, and you just think, no, they're gone now. They're no good. And then obviously Tony, you know, found his way through which was then would have been a nationwide, through mini tours into nationwide, and got himself onto the PGA Tour 7 years ago, and he's finally kept becoming that world beater basically, which is just stunning. And it was quite a nice week because it wasn't really till late in the last round we had the quality players come and chase him. He obviously played with Taylor Pendriff in the 3rd round, which was, you know what, first year on tour, really, really good showing to, you know, he's had quite a solid year to get in contention for a PGA Tour event. I think he played really well, Taylor, on the Saturday. Really did stick with Tony Finau and held the lead going into the last round. Didn't quite happen for him in the last round, which is just nerves really. He left so many putts short, but the rest of the game was good. But it was a bit late really when by the time Cantlay and Cameron Young started to make their move, Tony had already pulled away, hadn't he? So yeah, it's a brilliant. He's just a good guy, isn't he? It's something you want to get behind. Like even when he, you know, I don't know if anyone follows his social media and stuff, but he just seems like a bit of a geezer.
Yeah, he's just a proper legend. I think he's funny as well. When he takes his hat off, I think he looks 8 years younger because he's got this kind of really long wispy hair, and then his like little grin comes out, and and it's funny you mentioned like he's playing with his brother. I remember something during lockdown, he had all of his family around him, and I think he did an Instagram live shooting like 57 or 58. And there's just this like soiree of kind of children and family members around him, and they're just watching him just burn this golf course apart. He shot like 15 under, didn't he, or something? And you can see that it all plays in and it all contributes. And I think you're right. I think this week he's gone and beaten two really, really, really players on top of their game. Cantley's been phenomenal now for a couple of years. Cameron Young's having the rookie season of his life, arguably maybe the best rookie season someone's ever had.
He's still not won this year, and he's in the top 10 on the FedEx.
Yeah, but insane. He comes second or third pretty much.
I think that was his 7th top 3.
Yeah.
Including the British Open.
I think the last 7 or 8, he's finished second or third or missed the cut. I think 2 or 3 times he's missed the cut. And if he doesn't miss the cut, he's coming second or third. Yeah. So you basically need to just see how he gets on. And
I'm so impressed by him.
Bet on him on that.
Yeah, it was quite interesting watching him because I think mentally he looked tired yesterday. His game carried him through. In the booth in the commentary, we were having to apologise for him probably 5 times for swearing on camera, and he was smashing his clubs about, and he was getting a bit angry, and he doesn't let it affect his game. Like, it wasn't as if he then didn't capitulate, but he was, it's a bit of intensity, but you got to think that on the run that he's been on, he's kind of in the mix a lot, and it just seemed like he looked like a guy who needs a couple of weeks off just to go and recharge, or he just wasn't dealing with things very well himself, but it didn't really spill too much over onto his golf, fortunately for him.
Looks like he can afford a holiday as well now, so maybe time.
Disneyland?
If you're going to go
Disneyland? Tweet it.
Don't go to the New England Harbour.
Yeah, well, if he's got a bit of tension to release, Mickey might be worried about him turning up.
Yeah, you go sit on a knee with Lou.
Oh dear. Well, I mean, listen, does he need a break if he's finishing second?
Yeah, a week. We're not saying like go and take a month off, but maybe take next week off, get ready for the playoffs. We should look at the list. He probably had taken next week off, get ready for the playoffs, because he seems like he's going to be one of the main contenders in that. He's one of the hottest players in golf right now, and the whole story is building up to him having not won. And the same with Zalatoris, really. I think that we could see those two guys both win events in the playoffs and really push it down to the wire.
Yeah, I think so. It's a Wyndham Championship this week, isn't it? So, I think a lot of the attention's going to be around the players at a sort of 135 to 110.
The bubble boys.
The bubble boys, yeah. So they're trying to make sure that they're into the... is it 120, isn't it?
125, yeah.
Right, okay.
Wallace had a good week.
Yeah, Wallace had a really good week. He got in. Callum had another really good week. So he sort of cemented himself like in the safer zone. He had a really good final round, actually. We've been talking about him having good final rounds, goes and shoots 6 under. And then, gets himself to 108. Danny was in really good position, came back to the field, shot 3 over. He's now in 127. So, yeah, it'd be an interesting watch.
Which is kind of right there, isn't it? Because there's going to be a few more names come out because of the
LIV Tour.
Going across the LIV Tour. So it will be a really interesting week next week because, there's so much pressure riding on that. When Callum Tarrant finished yesterday, when he held that putt in the last for a 66,
yeah.
There was a little fist pump and everything. And he's finished way before the leaders of anywhere near ending their rounds. And there's people walking around that golf course thinking, this is just another golfer having a nice little Sunday. But to him, that is like, it's life-changing.
It's life-changing.
Kept his card on the PGA Tour. And people have been watching that like, that was a nice putt, whatever. But to him, that was been absolutely massive.
Biggest part of his life.
Yeah, and you know what?
What a great achievement.
Absolutely, and you know what? This is the little bit of the PGA Tour that I am hanging on, and I'm very Switzerland. I watched the LIV this week. I thought it was fantastic, but Callum Tarrant's made $1 million this year. But that putt and that final round has probably somewhat secured his future for the next 12 months. And you'd think, oh well, he's made $1 million. It's all right, but he's not. He's a stepping stone in his career. And I tell you what,
that's the gateway to the next $1 million.
Exactly,
yeah.
And he's shown some proper skill the last 3 weeks, just getting himself amongst it. He hasn't quite got it done, but he's just been accumulating cash, accumulating points on the FedEx, and hats off to him.
So talking of accumulating cash, let's move on to the LIV Tour, the Wheelbarrow Tour.
Thou shall not be named.
So massive week for LIV, massive week for Henrik. Just a quick interesting stat. So Tony Finau won the PGA Tour, moved up in the world rankings by 3 spots. Henrik Stenson won on the LIV Tour, moved down 3 spots. That doesn't seem quite right, does it?
Who got paid more? Yeah.
There was a big debate there, though. The quality of the field, 3 rounds.
And the fact that they got no points. So that's that. The field was arguably, well, is it stronger? There's some good names in there, but is it stronger than the PGA Tour? I mean, Henrik Stenson's 171st in the world rankings entering that week, you would think that if he went and played the PGA Tour, he wouldn't win with that ranking.
But he played well.
Very well.
You know, I think I haven't seen Henrik much this season. Have you watched him on the PGA Tour? How was he doing?
We're not being able to see him live because he doesn't get on telly.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's missed, how many 18 cuts or something like that.
Yeah, he's been struggling a bit, but I think Gareth Lord was saying that coming into this event, he's been slowly just getting he's been seeing the old Henrik, and for the last 2 months he's felt like his game's started to properly trend in the right direction. I thought his ball striking was phenomenal this week, though. Like, it was really, really good.
What was impressive for me was he played alongside Dustin Johnson and held him off basically and didn't let him in, and that's kind of it's a bit of a trademark Henrik Stenson kind of win, isn't it? Like, he's not been playing that well. And out of nowhere, he can just go toe-to-toe. When he gets on his game with the best player in the world, I always used to think that he was a bit of a Tiger beater. He wasn't as good as Tiger, but he was one person who probably could look him in the eye and go, right, let's go. And that's what he kind of did. He was, Dustin Johnson's quite an intimidating character on the golf course, not just for the fact that he rips it and he's been a world number one and so forth, but he's quite an imposing character. And Henrik was just, put those Oakleys on. No, not even Oakleys now. They're his own sunglasses. Yeah. Henrik Stenson eyewear, and he just zones in, and no one can. When he comes down the stretch, he is his nickname. He's the IceMan.
I just think, he's been renowned for just being unbelievably pure with that 3-wood.
He sticks to it. He just, he's watching Dustin Johnson drive greens and bomb that driver, and he just.
He didn't use driver once yesterday.
He pulls out the 3-wood, puts it in play. He's just relentless.
Commentary team didn't think that he pulled driver once yesterday.
There's a stat on the PGA Tour on how conservative a player is, and Henrik Stenson is the bottom of that list at 198th. He's the most conservative player on the PGA Tour, or what used to be on the PGA Tour, and but how good a player is he?
He is brilliant. I mean, the only time I've seen him really play live was at the Open in Troon when he had that final round of Mickelson. And you couldn't help falling love with it. I was there. It was amazing.
That's got to be one of the best ever displays of golf.
Everybody was following it, and it was I think Mickelson shot a 64 and Hendrick shot a 63.
Yeah, unbelievable. Imagine being in the last
group. They were just battling each other on every hole, and the golf they played, and then. You say, well, he plays conservative golf. I mean, I think it
conservative strategy, but aggressive golf,
golf, because I think that's he's a match play. Excellent player.
Well, I mean, in the Ryder Cup, him and Justin were very good. Imagine being one of the Americans, maybe playing one of your first ever Ryder Cups, and you walk into the first tee, with your partner, let's say Patrick Reed or something like that, little dumpy looking character will waddle onto the tee.
Had to think about it there.
And be careful there. And you come up and you just get these two mountains of men, like Justin and Henrik Stenson, just they're just chest out, prowling around the tee. You would think, God, we're in for a real shock today, aren't we? We're going to have to get at these two. You would end up just not looking at them because they're just such imposing characters. I mean, and that's all part of it. We don't talk about that. We talk about the stats and the scores and so forth. But actually playing side by side along somebody,
it's a different game, isn't it?
Different, that aura about it. Like it or not, if you come up in the last group and you're playing against Tommy Fleetwood, I feel that's just from a personality character display. That's a very different element to lining up against Henrik Stenson, for instance.
Yeah.
I mean, let's put Tiger Woods in a different box. He's not even worth talking about because you just need to accept that unless you're called Robert Rock, he's going to beat you.
Yeah.
And that's done. But there is that element, and I think hopefully we see a bit more of Henrik in contention. On my iPad, had the LIV Golf on while doing my actual job, which was commentating on the PGA Tour Golf. So we're kind of keeping a half eye on it. Who was watching it? James, you were watching it?
I was. I think Nicole was in the bath. I was multi-screening, so I was watching.
You got Nicole on the screen in the bath.
Yeah.
We won't ask what was on the screens.
Yeah, but
keep it clean. Keep it to the golf.
I had the PGA Tour on, had the LIV on, had the Grand Prix on, had the cricket on, had the Lionesses on. Yeah, it was like a sports Sunday. But he did get into the swing of his round. I thought. It reminded me of that round at Troon, to be honest. I thought his, beauty of Shot Tracer is he just had his ball flight just absolutely on string.
Yeah.
He was curving it no more than 2 yards. And because he was hitting 3-wood everywhere, there are quite a few holes at Bedminster where, it's like 500-yard par 4s. So he's hitting 300-yard 3-woods and then just hitting 200-yard 6-irons, but he's just hitting them to 15 feet, over and over and over again. And DJ's sending them out there 70, 75 yards past him, just leaning on driver. So he's got wedge in his hand. It doesn't bother him. He's just 70 yards back and he's just like sending arrows at the pins. It's almost like he's laying back on purpose to like put a marker in. It was just really, really impressive. And then the backside of the back nine, he was so clutch with the short stick. You could tell, and he was quite open about it in his interview, like a few nerves started settling in, hadn't been in the winner's circle for a couple of years. It's a feeling that starts to create a bit of an apple in the back of the throat. And then he holds a 15-footer across the green at 17, which was just unbelievable because he hit a pretty rough chip, to be honest. And then, the fist pump comes out. The IceMan is like properly settled in, drills freewood down the left-hand side of 18, lays it up nice, like, middle of the green strategy. Gareth Lord, I've been here before, do you know what I mean? Great guy to have in the bag. And then he can just walk up there and enjoy it. Great 30-footer across the 4 feet. And and it was, the arms were raised. And then, and then a little Nige dig at maybe a few people in his interview.
About being a captain.
dig. Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Go on, what did he say?
Well, the interviewee sort of says, well, Henrik, your first week on the LIV tour, after everything that's gone on the last 10 days, with the captaincy. And he goes, well, showed I'm a captain in that performance, didn't I? I was like, mic drop. So at this point, I'm expecting, Poulter and
Westwood to jump on the champagne.
Yeah, or the Dom Perrier starts spraying him in the face.
Norman lobbing cans of beer at him.
but he,
not for the IceMan.
No, I think he's teetotal because they actually cut to an interview in a car, him and Westwood driving into the grounds. And
he wasn't boozing on the way in.
No, and Lee was
must be teetotal.
Necking Budweisers.
Lee was saying like
this loser
while driving,
water, leading.
Yeah, I'm looking at the pH number on his water. Oh, that's a good one. That.
How did he get into the Majestics?
Yeah, and he sort of Westwood in his kind of stern northern accent said, like, what do you want us to do if you win? I mean, you're obviously in really good shape. Like, you want
that was a good northern accent.
Yeah, and he was like
from just north of the water.
And Henrik in proper sort of IceMan style was
Scandinavian.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not going to try that accent.
This could be a real feature for us. James's accent, which just all sound like him.
Like Michael Wilmslow from Police Academy by the end of this thing. He just sort of said nothing. We'll just do something afterwards. Like it was so sarcastic, exactly how you know Henrik to be. And Lee's like, hang on a second, we're doing a feature for LIV here, and he's like, no, don't do anything. I'll just do him interviews and sign my card and
see you later.
We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens afterwards. He's like, all right, cool. cut to edit.
Let's get out of here.
Short-lived feature.
But, jokes aside, it was great. I mean, Matt Wolf having a real charge. Like, this was the bit of the LIV tour where you got to pay attention to it because you're all over the place. Matt Wolf wasn't in contention at the start of the day. So I think he's 5 or 6 holes ahead because he finished on the 4th hole and he's absolutely playing a blinder. He's
finishing at the same time, but he's finishing on a different hole, right?
Hole,
yeah, exactly right. Yeah,
just for anyone listening who doesn't necessarily know how it goes, it's a shotgun start. So
Correct.
When you watch the coverage, you can see it's a countdown of like 10 to play, 9 to play, 8 to play. So people are finishing at the same time, but in different parts of the golf course.
Absolutely. So, which is really interesting.
And the leaders tee off the first?
Leaders tee off the
Top
first.
Top 3 scores are the best group, aren't
the
they?
Individual, yeah. Then the penultimate start on 2 and so on and so on. And it's really interesting, actually, because I was thinking about this, I was thinking, I don't know if I like this or not. But actually, if someone comes through the pack, which Matt Wolf did, because he was 7 under for his round, and he was probably the person who was leaning on Henrik the most, Henrik doesn't know where he is on the course, and he's going to have a completely different finishing stretch to obviously the stretch that Henrik's having. You're like, actually, this is probably quite good fun.
But that's what I realised I had to understand a bit better is usually golf courses have a scoring part where people can put a run on, and then there's a bit where they're a bit scared of, where the holes where they're going to drop shots, and not being conscious of where people are in their round makes it quite hard when you're looking at the leaderboard to truly understand how comparative those scores are.
Yeah, because the 17th and 18th had hordes of people down them, and then obviously the the hospitality at the back of 18 is quite vast, and there's loads and loads of people there. And Matt Wolf's finishing on 2, 3, and 4, and there's it almost looks like he's playing a leisurely round with a couple of pals. It's like no one over at that part of the golf course. So I don't know. You've been a professional golfer and won in tournament golf, and would you prefer to kind of be able to sort of zone back, have no fans, and like, would it calm you down? Or do you think, no, actually, I'm going to bounce off the elation and the cheer of loads of people here and like use that energy? I don't know.
Well, there's 2 things. The crowds are based at 17, 18 because they build up the hospitality and all of that. So everybody who's playing experiences that at some point during the day. But then you've also got the leading group, which will have that floating crowd that will be following it around because they're wanting to watch the good golf.
Of course. obviously at this point, Matt Wolf's been second and the closest person to Henrik for 2 hours. And I don't know whether it didn't look like he was pulling a crowd with him.
I'd go over to have a look just to see if that swing's real. Have you seen his backswing?
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. Well,
double take when I looked at it. I was like, wow, and he absolutely drills it.
It's some move. I mean, just on that LIV point, I think from a player and playing experience, it's not as good. It's not everybody's finished on the 18th. You're not getting that, getting to hear the cheers from someone up ahead, getting to watch someone up ahead putt out for the birdie, knowing what you got to do, and have that all going on in and around you. I think, and then also, you do feed off that energy because when you've been playing well, essentially most. I would say nearly all professional golfers. I'm sure there's a golfer out there who just actually someone like Stephen Dodd, who's a very good player, ex-European Tour player. He doesn't like crowds or any sort of attention. He just wants to do his business and go home. But around Stephen Dodd, everyone else in the world of golf that I know, that's kind of what you play for. Yes, you play for the money. Yes, you play to beat people, but you also play for the energy you get off people, for being cheered on the last hole and so forth. So I think from being at the tournament, it's probably not quite as good. It worked out yesterday because the winner did come from the last group, but from a viewing experience, watching it on a broadcast, it is quite good to get everybody kind of counting down and finishing at the same point. So that's quite nice. But there'll be times when it won't have the same atmosphere. Like you said, if Matt Wolf wins that, no one's out there watching him. All the crowd somewhere else. It would be a bit flat when you win.
Yeah,
like we watched that COVID golf. COVID golf was like that, wasn't it? Like when someone would putt out and win, there'd be like no cheers. It would be like, oh, well done. Like, here's a check. On you go.
Yeah, well, he would have played the 18th and then had the crowds and everything, and then walked over to play the first.
Yeah, which you almost get done. You're like, I've done the good bit. I've gone through there, and really, I didn't get to see that bit on the 18th. Are those stands full all day, or is it towards the end people are coming in and?
You don't know because the coverage cuts around the golf course so much because you're not just following the individual, you're following the team part, and then obviously you're following the table in the team. So it wasn't just following the four aces versus the Mavs, which was the Majestics. Which was the kind of 1 and 2 place. You then had this sort of playoff for 3rd and 4th and 5th, and all of a sudden you cut into Phil, who's 8 over for the tournament, but he's got a 15-foot birdie putt.
I mean, that's it. What's going on there? He shot 1 under par round since February.
Yeah,
and he is the highest paid golfer in golf. It was reported yesterday he's been paid $138 million this year, and he's 40 odd something over par. Something about that calculation does not add up. It is that the epitome of what we're talking about with when the arguments come with PGA Tour and LIV, is that it's always been about, essentially, it's been about the performance and winning, and that's taking you there.
Yeah.
But you got a guy here who's clearly off his game. He's coming towards the end of his career. He's also playing very poorly, and he's getting paid the most.
But they've had to do that to start the ball rolling for LIV, haven't they? So they've gone for the highest profile player they thought they could get, chucked a bunch of money at him, got him converted to LIV. But he's not the future of LIV.
It's kind of backfired a bit, hasn't it?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see in 3 years' time, won't it?
Does that make sense? To throw all the money at someone who's not the future of LIV, and it's not worked out for them.
Well, I think it starts the ball rolling. They've got so much money, they've done that, and now what you're seeing is that other players are jumping, and the field is getting slightly better. It's getting stronger.
Do you think they're jumping because of Phil?
Well, I think if Phil hadn't gone initially, the people that went after Phil probably wouldn't have gone. There's a domino effect. They've got the first domino because they get Phil on, and then they get a couple more, Sergio, and then and slowly the others start joining. DJ was a big signing.
He's got away with everything here, isn't he? He was the main first. I know there was a lot of chat about Phil, but Phil didn't come across until after DJ did.
That's right.
Everyone kind of knew that Phil was coming, but then DJ's come in and he's probably taken a nice big check. I think on that list I looked at, it was something like $98 million this year that he's taken, and
rubbish.
He's come straight in and he's kind of played okay. But he seems to have gotten no nonsense from the media.
No, he's under the radar. Phil's taking all the flack, which is probably why they're paying him so much.
And Poulter and Westwood.
Well, I think that's because it's been reflective in their game. DJ's finished in the top 3 last 2 events. He's been in contention the last 2 events properly. Probably thinks he should.
I don't think it's a game thing. I think it's a personality thing because they know that they can. The media give him a hard time. They've given Poulter a hard time, haven't they? We've seen that. They've given Westwood a hard time. They've given Phil a hard time. But I think it's almost like they give him a hard time. Some of the questions coming out, they'll ask the same question over and over, waiting. If they know they're long
to
enough,
get a rise.
they'll get a rise out of him. But it's if with DJ, they think, you know what, we're not even going to start following this guy because he's just not. He's probably not even listening.
And I think
all he's thinking about is what boat he's going to be on the weekend and what Paula's up to. You know.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to catch a carp or not. I think the same will happen with Stenson. I think in a month's time they won't try it with him. They won't get anywhere with him. He's very similar to DJ in that regard. You know,
Stenson will probably revel in it. It would just be bantering them the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, exactly.
It's embracing it,
or just creating these sarcastic, awkward silences.
Exactly, he'll love that.
Do you know what? No, we'll go back to interviewing you in the car about water.
Don't ask him any questions. Move on.
Yeah, but another one to coin that, Zed. I mean, because obviously he's well known to you, amazing guy, was having an amazing 2-year run. You know, Blandy's obviously made the switch to LIV, and it looks like it's really affected his game.
Game is not anywhere near where it was. He was almost untouchable for a while there. He has had a few other things going on. He recently got married last week and so forth. So he's got quite his other stuff that he's probably taking his attention because he is probably at a time in his career that, you know, golf's, you know, had quite a lot of focus to keep his game sharp. So, you know, he doesn't have this like Tony Finau game where he can just step on, find another 10 miles per hour at ball speed and fly a bunker whenever he wants to on tap. Blandy has to do it by hard work and knowing his numbers and coming up to the range at Wisley, and we all see him. He's got his. You know, if you ever go to the Wisley and hit balls on the right side of the range and take a little picture, he'll always like put a message or text saying that's my spot. Always, because that's his spot that he goes to on the right side of the range, gets his GC quad out, and he has no club data on it, and he just hits balls and he just does his numbers, just tunes in every day. What's his ball speed on a 9-iron, 8-iron, 7-iron? How far is that going today? Getting the strike right. So he's got to put the time in to perform where he has. If he's off getting married and doing all that sort of stuff, he probably hasn't had time to hit balls, you know, which is just, hopefully, it's just the ebb and flows. But yeah, then on top of that, has his attention been kind of slightly turned because there's, you know, quite a bit of drama really. He's never really been in the spotlight for most of his career. Then he's been in the spotlight for good reasons. Then he's been a little bit in the spotlight for controversial reasons. You know, all these little things add up, which is kind of what we've seen with Henrik. Henrik's been, you know, he's had some issues kind of off the course. Then had this Ryder Cup captaincy, which has been, it must hang over you. All of a sudden you've got lots of more time to give up and meetings and your focus is definitely taken away from your own golf. Now he's cleared that deck, got a boatload of cash in the bank account, you know, all of a sudden it's now just about the golf again. And straight away, gone from being nowhere near, not being at the races to winning.
4.375 million.
Well, and some, right?
And the team prize,
cash,
which was $500,000, I think, for second.
So yeah, just shade under 5 mil.
So you boys have you were chatting off just before we started about the team aspect. I've not really looked at the team aspect too much or delved into it. You seem to know who's on what team and how it all works.
Well, so I watched LIV. The first time I've sat down at the weekend and actually got YouTube out and looked at it and watched it, and it took me a while to get the graphics sorted out. And once knowing which hole they're playing, I think is an important thing. But then
Nige has probably done a spreadsheet on the teams and who's moved in, who's moved out.
A couple of formulas, saved as book one, not annoying.
Excel black belt. So the team format is basically that each team, there's 4 people in each team, and rounds 1 and round 2, your best 2 scores of your 4 count, and then round 3, which is the final round, your best 3 scores count. So you've got the Majestics, who are being sort of put as this European team, which Westwood's the captain.
Yeah.
You've got Pultz, you've got Hendrik, and then Ridgewood.
No, Sam Horsfield.
Sorry, Horsfield. Who's Ridgewood?
Richwood.
That's made up a golfer.
I think that's the country club on Caddyshack.
Bushwood.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's seen as the European team, and then you've got DJ, who's the captain of the 4 aces, and he's got Reed in his team and Gooch, and then another guy that never features, Patrick Perez,
just there for the laugh.
Which, you know, we're needing 3 scores in the third round. He was, I think, even 1 under at one point. And was one of the scores counting.
Perez was trending on Twitter earlier.
But then he dropped off. But he still picks up $750,000 as prize money, as his share of the.
Pat Perez is still trending on Twitter,
and the 20 million signing on fee for being DJ's fishing partner. So
here we go. So Pat Perez has finished tied 29th and tied 31st in his first 2 LIV starts, and was a combined 35 shots off the leading scores, but it's still banked over 1.75 million. What a world! And it's got a little quote over this picture, said, "I used to believe in Santa. Now I'm the one with the bag."
But so that's the team aspect. And listen, Perez might have a really good round. I mean, like the Aces, I think did really well off Gooch, getting 7 under, I think, in round 2, which was a big score, which really pushed them ahead. But that aspect of the team game, I got quite into. I was watching, obviously, Westwood and Pultz are favourites of mine, and Stenson joining them as well. I've got a big affection towards Stenson, having watched him play the Troon. And so I was rooting for the Majestics, and the score does fluctuate quite a lot. When you've got 3 people contributing to your team score, they were 4 or 5 behind at the beginning of the round, and it fluctuated to the point where I think they were like 1 behind, and then unfortunately I think Porter had a bit of a weak finish.
Yeah, it was interesting, wasn't it? Because the coverage cut to Porter, and you could tell that he was watching the team scoreboard. He'd stopped playing the individual game.
He's a team player.
And he was really, really trying to pour it on.
Mr. Ryder Cup.
He is.
Awkward.
Exactly. Mr. Majestic now.
Mr. Majestic.
The Winehouse. Yeah, he just goes in, buys his 6 cases. He was watching the team scoreboard, and he was thinking they had a real sniff at probably winning the team because they kept cutting to him, and he was just really trying to force it, and fell a bit short. But that was good. The team side of it was good, wasn't it?
It was good. I mean, if you look at those 2 teams, though, they are significantly better than the others. The third team was a good 6 to 7 shots back from second, which maybe isn't that much.
Because the South African lads have won the last 2 events. It's a bit unfair. Like if you think Schwartzel, Grace, Oosterhausen, like they cleaned up in Centurion.
The first event.
Yeah. And then, Grace won the last event.
They've been bringing a lot more money into the South African economy just from across from Saudi there, haven't they? So it seems like the team is a good thing.
It's getting there. I
it
think
sounds like from what you guys have said, like Nigel has a slight affinity towards, I like Stenson, so I like that team.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I think you've got to watch it 2 or 3 times and get your head around how it works, and you will start to gravitate towards one team, I think. And I think the team aspect and the way that they play that going forward will be quite a big feature. I mean, they are talking about, people sponsoring the teams. And
so here's a question: so do the teams change each week, or are they kind of stayed the same because they're kind of pals and they're picking the same mates? Does the captain pick the full team every week?
The team can change. I think you have to have almost like a declared roster which has a number of people on it, because obviously...
So Westwood was captain?
Westwood was captain, but he wasn't captain the week before. Porter was captain the week before.
So when they start the week, is it like on, I think the Aramco, they literally have all the captains out and then they just go, right, you pick. So could Westwood...
It's like being the school grounds.
So for instance...
Well, it's got Perez at the end.
South Africans are...
Jumpers for goalposts.
Pick me!
You be a goalpost, not a jumper.
You go get the ball. So for instance...
he couldn't pick DJ.
The South Africans have gone well, right? So then Westwood goes, you know what? I'm just going to just to put it amongst them. We're going to pick one of their players.
Yeah, no, it's
take them out.
Can
they do that?
No, it's not. It's not.
You can't do that.
No, it's rostered in much differently. I think it's like a trade in, trade out perspective, because obviously the Majestics have traded out Laurie Cantor, who's been picked up by another team. The name.
So the next event, essentially, if all those 3 players are, if it's the same field, they have to play the same teams.
I don't know. Some of the stuff is not fully confirmed. What I do think they're working towards, which I think will be exciting, Nige, is like they are going to start going through this trading concept as the teams evolve more and more and better players come in. If the rumoured Cameron Smith comes in, who's going to pick him up? So
because I heard that they're going to try and do like an IPL auctioning thing at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, that would be
start
unreal.
the season, you've got all the players, you've got the nominated captains, and they'll all be sort of, I don't know, I guess if you finish top that season, you get first pick or something.
Well, if they did a draft based on like the NFL, I guess if you win the league, then the team at the bottom picks first.
Oh, of course. Okay.
That would be
Mixes
awesome.
it up.
Yeah, so I don't know. There's so many things that they can do with it, isn't it? Which is actually quite exciting, right? So
all those small things where you could just kind of go in and piss people off by picking players that you knew someone was going to pick that sort of stuff. Makes it quite interesting.
No,
that's one thing that golf hasn't got. It hasn't got that side to it. Which
DJ just, I don't want to play for Team Europe.
Well, this is the thing. I actually don't know if I like the idea of them mixing the teams every year. I think there's something nice about getting a team like your football team.
Yeah.
Getting a golf team.
You get behind them, don't you?
Get behind them. You've got the jersey, and you're out there drinking their favourite drink or whatever it is you have to do on the LIV Tour.
In 2 years' time, when it moves to franchise, I think they move to a team of 6, and you have the ability to sub players in if their form isn't there. That's what I've been reading, but I don't think it's concrete yet. I think they're just using. This energy that they've got. It's getting better and better. There's no denying that.
So we don't know.
No,
basically.
Yeah, we don't know.
I'm guessing.
just edit
We'll
that
know-
out.
we'll
That was
know- we'll
20
know more.
minutes of wasted time.
We'll know more next week. We'll
It's
know
called
more
the
next
Waffle
week.
Tour.
All right, cool. So it's providing a good conversation, and it does seem like it's becoming quite interesting.
I enjoyed it, and I think the team aspect's there, and I think there's interesting to see how it evolves. And Liverpool, I'm sure, will announce more as it goes on about what they're going to do and the plans with it.
So the other big tour, which is going a little bit down the pecking order, if we're being really honest right now, hopefully it comes back, is the DP World Tour. I didn't get to see any of it. What was the outcomes
I got
there?
to watch
I thought
it.
Crocker won.
I put Fairmont St Andrews. Closest James has been to St Andrews Old Course, if I remember rightly.
I remember enjoying it as much in the event as I did watching it on TV, to be honest. It was a bit...
I was quite excited to watch it. I mean, like I said last week, I'm a bit of a fan of Richie Ramsey, so I tuned in, and unfortunately he didn't make the cut. 5 under and didn't get the cut. It was quite a funny little... He tweeted after missing the cut on the Friday, and a big bag of fish and chips and a can of Iron Brew, and that's how he was consoling himself. Which,
he's Scottish.
if you're Scottish, you know that is a great meal. I mean,
The Scots are
20
keeping
minutes
Iron
later,
Brew,
you're carved out zombie.
Didn't you So Richie Ramsey won the US Am
That's right.
in Royal Aberdeen Clubhouse. Didn't you say for a while there was a picture of him, like a painted picture? Tell us about that, the original one.
As a can of Iron Brew.
So they basically, when he won, he was from Royal St Andrews, and Royal St Aberdeen. Royal Aberdeen. Start again. So
Brew.
Richie Ramsey grew up playing Royal.
Stop giving away the punchline.
I didn't actually know that. I know this story.
So Richard Ramsey grew up playing golf at Royal Aberdeen, and then he won the US.
That's the punchline. That's
US.
what it goes.
Look, we could cut it out and start again.
No, you've got to keep going with it now, unedited.
Anyway, Richard Ramsey, guess where he grew up playing golf?
Royal
St
Aberdeen. Aberdeen St Royler.
Royal Aberdeen, and when he won the US Amateur, it was obviously big news for the club. So they commissioned this huge, big painting. You go into, and Royal Aberdeen is a traditional old course, and they did this huge oil painting of Richie Ramsey sitting in the clubhouse, and he's sitting. There's a picture of him with all these like beautiful reds, and looks traditional, sitting in the clubhouse. And on the table in front of him, they had this big green and blue can of Iron Brew.
It's orange and blue, isn't it?
Sorry, it's
Can
orange
of
and
Iron
brew.
Brew, yeah.
Head's gone.
It's gone.
Head's gone.
He had loads of
It's gone early.
transfusions, got proper boozed. I think that's, but yeah.
Anyway, but what they've
That's
done,
unbelievable.
you couldn't believe it. It was like jaw dropping. You go in and go, it's an amazing picture, but there's a big orange and blue can of Iron Brew.
That is as Scottish as it gets, isn't it?
Unbelievable.
But I think I think they've painted over it, or they've had it changed, because I don't think it has that can
Mouton
anymore.
45 now.
That's a shame. That's a pretty cool story.
Is a good story.
Yeah, I like that one. So
Anyway, so I watched that, and like I say, Richie unfortunately didn't make the cut, and our friend Paul Waring had a reasonable attempt. I think he was level on the first day, but had a couple of good rounds, round 2 and 3, and then just petered off a little bit in round 4. But Sean Cocker was brilliant.
and Eddie Pepperell.
Yeah.
Eddie Pepperell, I mean,
second.
he played well.
Oh, I'm so glad
really
to see
good.
him back.
Really well.
He is brilliant for the tour, actually.
He's so popular. It's interesting that he's been kind of, he sent some interesting or funny tweets to about Henrik moving, and he's very pro the DP World Tour. If you go onto his Twitter handle, just in his bio, everyone has the founders of this, or European Tour or DP World Tour professional golf. He's just got live golfer in the making in his bio, but. He literally, and this is a guy who's on the committee. He's on the committee for the DP World. He just doesn't give a
hoot, does he?
Doesn't give 2 S's about it. But yeah, nice actually, really nice. And he did actually also tweet. It appears that I'm back playing really well. It feels nice, which is, you're always going to get full honesty from Eddie. So yeah, hopefully that continues for him. And he's found something that he can continue for the rest of the season on. So,
well, and they had big jumps, didn't they, in their ranking points? I think.
yeah, big jumps.
I think I remember
almost
Pepperell's
secured Pepperell's card. That, I mean, he was.
Yeah, I think
he was down.
He was
like
163, and he's up to 72 now.
Yeah, it was a big check and a big jump in to securing his card for Eddie. Yeah,
big week for him.
And a big week also. Cocker that's his first DP Tour win, I believe.
Yeah, and he played brilliant. To be fair,
he jumped up from 133 to 39th now, I think, in the rank. So big moves for those guys in the last part of the season.
Impressive. And another big move was one of our mates, Todd Clements, won on the Challenge Tour, which we are very, very really pleased for him with that. It's been coming for quite a while. Absolutely, just ripped through the field and ended up being really, really comfortable. Yesterday was the first time. You always keep a little eye on your mates who are doing well and so forth, and he, checking the app and refreshing. And his mum's texting me saying, "I'm so nervous," and she's saying, "What do you reckon? Is he gonna do it?" And I'm like, Leo, he's 7 clear with 4 to play. He's not losing this.
Yeah.
So for the first time, I actually went on early and just went on social media and went, right, I'm going early here. Congratulations to Todd Clements for winning this event because he was so far ahead. But just because I knew his character, really, he's not going to do a Scott Piercy.
Doesn't
he knows
read
what
your
he's
tweets
doing.
either.
Doesn't read my tweets. Not to lie. Well, he shouldn't be looking on the course. It'd be a bit awkward.
You're not allowed phones on the course.
No. Are you not?
Well, where were they playing?
Yeah, maybe not, actually.
K Club, Ireland.
The K Club in Ireland.
He's got form in Ireland as well.
Yeah, he's finished 3rd in Ireland before. He finished 19 under this week, winning by 6 over Tom McKibben, who gave us a little scare, didn't he, James?
He did. He parred the first hole and then he just decided to birdie the next 6 in a row. And all of a sudden, I was like, "What is going on here?" So
stop doing this. I'm gonna get out.
That's a bit of a Greg Norman rampage there.
I text Zane. I was like, "Oh, we need to get a hit on this kid. He is just absolutely running through the field." But I mean, Todd, in true fashion, he's such a model professional. He's an amazing young lad. He works relentlessly. He absorbs information from everyone around him and just translates what he wants to do with it. And one thing I would say about him from watching his career, from being an extremely successful amateur through to turning professional, when he gets a sniff of getting his nose in front, he's quite an elite hunter of winning. He gets, when he's in front, it's very, very difficult to catch him. I remember watching him at Brocket Hall when he won his first Euro Pro event, and the moment he got ahead, you just weren't getting anywhere near him. And it looked like the same this week. He got up to 2 really good rounds. Sort of set his authority in the most inclement conditions they had in the 3rd round. And then, you saw a few people were in the red, which he probably would have known if he's a scoreboard watcher coming out. Didn't faze him. Just got to a couple under through 6 or 7 and then really turned it on the back 9, didn't he? And hold that wedge shot from 95, which had a load of cheddar on it, sort of spun it back about 25 feet.
Yeah, pitched it right at the back of the green. And just probably would have been more than 25 feet. Went right on the back edge, pin was on the front edge and just sucked all the way back down. By this time, he's already walking up the fairway because it took so long to go in. And then obviously it goes in. There's a big chirp by the green. He turns around, gives it a big run back to his caddy, a big kind of chest bump. And what a moment that would be.
Would he have purposely played that shot really long with a load of cheddar on it? Or is that...
It's a bit of luck in there. He would have been trying to play it a bit past the hole for it to come back. I don't think anyone would really try and pitch it 2 feet from the back edge for it to come back. But he would have been playing for the spin.
So when you catch it just so finely, it goes further, but it has more spin on it, which compensates, I guess.
Well, with a wedge, for most good players, first of all, the club's clean. Yeah. Most poor players, the grooves are full of crap, aren't they?
Yeah.
But you got that part. So you got the friction between this is the technical part. So you get the friction between the grooves. People think it's the grooves that make the spin. It's not. It's a piece between the grooves that make the spin because that's the bit that touches the ball.
Yeah.
So that, along with hitting down it slightly out the middle to low in the club face, that's what creates all that spin. So then the next part is when it hits the green. If you ever play a course which is like a new golf course and the greens are brand new and they're kind of sandy, the front of the pitch mark, because it's not matured, explodes.
Yeah.
So the ball runs on.
Yeah.
But on older sort of greens, the front of the pitch mark almost creates a bit of a wall. So the ball will hop up or backwards. Then all of a sudden that spin just kicks in.
So you avoid that area.
Back it comes. Yeah. So he would have known that the type of greens he was hitting into, these balls back up. He would have done that in his practice round. So he knows on that wedge shot, I've got to pitch this past.
Okay.
Now, he hasn't gone up there and read the green and so forth, but, it's generally a pretty good shot and it's gone in at a time when, being a few ahead, think on for his first win on the Challenge Tour, he's already doing quite well this year. He was 18th on the Challenge Tour, on the order of merit coming into this week. Top 15 gets their car, so he knows a good week. He's in around the bubble, and to be a few ahead, thinking about that, it would have been in his mind on his back 9. If I can win this, I'm going to bump up into a place where I'm going to get my tour card. To then hit a shot like that and it go in, the feeling that must have just given him, just thinking, because at that point you go, right, I've done this now. All we've got to do is not completely mess up.
Yeah.
And just an amazing moment. And someone caught it on camera. It went out on the social media. I think we've retweeted it, so you can check that out. But yeah, absolutely fantastic. And he's now up to 4th on the rankings, over 100,000 points or euros on the rankings, which basically means I don't think he can probably not play for the rest of the year, and he'll have full status on the DP World Tour next year. So it's been a big moment for him because he's been building up to this quite some time, really, since I first met him. And I sat with him and his dad, and it was like, his dad sat me down. His dad's quite a steely character, and I was going to do a bit of coaching with him early on. And he said, has he got what it takes? And I did actually feel a bit under pressure because Martin's quite an intimidating character, and I thought, and he's about to pay me some money, so I think he's probably looked at where I live. But I stood by it, and I thought, no, this guy's got something.
Yeah.
He's definitely got something, and it's coming through now. And whether we hope that he goes on and wins more and more, but even just get to this point, he's proven, through hard work, really. He's very nice golfer, very good all-round golfer, good mentally, works hard, does his work in the gym. He's good to people. He treats people in the correct manner, and he's getting some payback for it.
Yeah, and arguably his game is suited for the higher up the tours you go because the fairways get a bit tighter.
More suited to the bigger tours than the Challenge Tour.
Yeah, absolutely. Because one of the things that he probably thrives in his game is dispersion is sort of watertight. So as the courses get slightly harder and they tuck pins, it probably suits Todd's game.
When we used to do Monday clubs, where we'd have a bunch of good players come in, and we would do tests, and we'd do like yardage tests. So we'd have a comp where we'd say set a number, say 172 yards, and it would move through, and they'd go 172. Then another number that the TrackMan would spit out would be 150, then 135. And you had a certain amount of shots, and it was who could get closest to the number. And we got good players then. Everyone's getting within 5 yards. That was a bit short. Hit that one. Maybe that's 10, 12 yards short. And Todd would always come in, and he'd hit shots. And as he hit it, say 172, it'd be like, that's long. Sit. And it would just come up on the screen like, 173.2. Then he'd hit another one, and say go for 154, and he goes, that's not long enough, that. And it would just go like 153. He was just so dialed in, and that's his superpower, really.
Yeah, that is good.
Which is really all comes from quality of strike. And, and then the other part that James mentioned, he knows how to win. He's happy winning. He's happy, leading and taking that on. He one of his first events he won when I coached him was the English Amateur. And that was a stunning win, which kind of leads us into now some of the amateur roundup. So the English Am and the Scottish Am was on this week. Guy, we know his old man, Chris Sullivan. Joe Sullivan won the English Amateur at Lindrick. In that final, I just kind of followed some of the scores on Twitter. But then moving on, the Scottish Amateur, Nigel, take it away.
Yeah, it's a great weekend for me personally, because a friend I grew up with school, actually, I met him when he was 14, and he's now had 3 boys, and they're all avid golfers. And one of his sons, he's got twins. The first 2 are twins, both 16 years old. One of them won the Scottish Amateur this weekend at 16. I believe it's the youngest ever person to win the men's awesome. Scottish Amateur. So, and the way that competition works is you play a couple of rounds of golf, and then they take the top 64 scores, and that goes into a knockout. And I think he was mid-range of the 64, around about 40th sort of spot. He was playing against a guy in the final called Gregory Tate, who was second best score. So he was put at the very bottom of the draw and dominated most of his matches through the knockout stage. And he was 3 up. Gregory was 3 up against Ollie Mukherjee after I think it was 10 holes. And then Ollie Mukherjee really...
Two round final or 1 round?
No, it's just 1 round final. Okay. The English is 2, but for some reason the Scottish is just the 1 round. So it finished on the Saturday afternoon. And he was 3 down, and then he just went and won. I think he won 3 holes out of the next 4, and then he got 1 back. I think it was 16, was 1 up with 2 to go, and managed to level it out to the end to win 1 up, which was an amazing result. And I think he spoke a little bit afterwards. All of his match play matches, he was down at some point and managed to grind it back. So, I know he's absolutely exhausted by it. And his dad, who was on the bag, was also exhausted.
Every step.
Yeah,
that's a pretty cool thing to have.
It was amazing. And so I haven't really had a chance to have a good catch up with them, but they were celebrating yesterday. I don't know how a 16-year-old celebrates, but
Iron Brew.
I am brewing a Star Mix family pack.
A load of sugar.
We'll have to get him on.
No, definitely. I'm sure he'd love to come on and share his experience and meet you and chat to you, Zane, and get some tips from you and how to
where to go, where not to go.
Yeah, what not to do next.
Yeah. He very kindly thanked the Bear Tiger Club, which is very good of it.
Well, if anyone wants to follow the Bear Tiger Club posted every hole. A picture, little video with a commentary on what happened that hole. So you can go back and start on hole 1 and just work your way through. I mean, I think it was hole 9. Ollie Mukherjee had this putt off the green. It reminded me a lot of Cameron Smith at the Open on the 18th at St Andrews, right off the green, up the hill onto it, and he hit this. It must have been a 70, 80 foot putt. and it was beautiful, and he put it within like 2 feet.
I watched
it was
that.
a gimme.
Yeah, that was
and
tough, yeah.
I was like, gee.
When you play match play and someone's
16
out there,
years
and someone
old.
does that to you, like, oh,
I know.
what a
You're on the
chance,
green with probably a 15-footer thinking I'm looking good here, and amazing part. Anyway, it's actually quite good fun to run through that again and have a look at it. But it was a good match, and I think Gregory Tate obviously also shows some quality golf there, very consistent throughout the week.
We'll definitely get him on the pod if he'll give us his time, but even better if we could get him down for a round of golf.
Amazing, yeah.
Well, his twin brother, I think Ollie's off +5, his twin brother's off +3, and then they've got a 13-year-old called CJ, another Cameron. Cameron's a popular golfing name at the moment. Robin's the father, was saying that Cameron's ball speed's up to 163, and he's only 13.
Christ.
And he's a very good golfer as well. So all three of them, I mean, you should go out there and have a scramble with those three. I think you'd crack all sorts of records. They're very, very good.
I don't think I'll get a look in by the sound of it. They all sound bloody
Beating the
brilliant.
Haribos.
So look out for the Mukherjee boys. They're going to be taking over world golf,
some
I
squad
think,
that, isn't it?
five years' time.
Yeah, well, we will. Hopefully, we'll get them on and maybe do one of the YouTube vids with them.
Amen.
Should we do that?
Sounds good.
Nice. Okay, so what else has been happening with the Bear Tiger Club, James, our technical man?
Oh, I've got an
What's happening?
announcement.
Go on then.
I've got over 100 followers.
Yes.
Oh, is this ape buying time?
It's ape time.
So that means that I think the deal was I'd have to buy a Bored Ape. So, and luckily ETH's gone up 70% in the last 3 weeks or
Sweet.
2 weeks or something. So,
I told you to buy it.
so I'm currently selling off my belongings and doing a garage sale so that I can
to buy a JPEG.
All my past golf clubs are for sale.
Yeah.
Some classics in there. Ryder Mark IIs.
Yeah, if you want some 2007 Foot Joys with no studs left in them, you can.
Have you had a look?
TBTC Big Nige's,
Have you had a look
eBay.
at what type of Bored Ape you're going to buy?
The cheapest.
The floor.
The floor.
Going to sweep the floor, as they say, with a whole one purchase.
ETH is up, but the floor is down. So the floor.
Yeah, I did see that. The floor is trading about 80 to 85 ETH at the moment. It's bouncing around there. So
What's that in dollars, roughly, at the moment?
it's a lot. It's
140,000 US about at the moment. Yeah.
It's a painful 100 followers on Twitter. That.
Well, listen, I'm on Twitter posting about golf, and I've got 111 NFT followers. Clearly, people that own Bored Apes who just want me to pump the price a little bit more. And actually, when I was putting out golf commentary, once I got to 100, I got to 112, 113. It's been going down now because the NFT boys are sort of switching off to the golf chat. So I feel a little bit conned by it all, to be honest. But I'm a man of my word, so I'm not committing to how long it's going to take me to buy it, but I will be buying a Bored Ape at some point in the near future.
Nice.
Well, we'll cover that. Well, that'll go on Twitter. We'll film it.
And then I'll start losing all my golf followers.
Yeah, it's a tough world.
The free Bored Ape holders, 2 of which are me and JLT that like golf, will always stay with you.
There we go. Well, I'm there for you boys.
That's all the
Any other news from Bear Tiger?
Yeah, we had a pretty solid week with quite a few interviews from across the pond. A spotlight article was written on us this week. We've got some interesting stuff coming up this week now. We finally announced our public launch date, which will be October the 13th, which will be exciting in Las Vegas. So
I don't like Vegas.
Be sure to get your passports.
That's a whole other podcast.
Yeah, we might have to we won't vodcast that one. So yeah, which is exciting coming through, and plenty more to follow this space on. That's for sure. There's definitely a few heads-gons this week. Have you got any, Zed?
I'm pretty good. Mine's the opposite, really. I just had such a good day yesterday just watching people that I like play good golf. Being a massive golf fan, that was a really nice kind of day for me, really.
You had 3 wins yesterday. Todd, Finau, IceMan.
Yeah, I'm good.
Lionesses.
Yeah, I'm in and we haven't even mentioned the Lionesses.
No.
That was another one where I was.
You're going to have to fill that in for the American
myself
viewers.
and James Gregg doing the commentary of the PGA Tour on the so we're watching. We are focusing. We're doing the commentary, but then we're on the iPads. We've got the Lionesses towards the end of the game against Germany. So England Germany, massive game of football and
female football.
Yes.
Female football, women's women's football.
Sold out Wembley.
87,000 people there, which is brilliant.
Buzzing
really
atmosphere. I think I was cycling through London on the way to a restaurant to meet some friends, and the bars were full, like of people cheering, drinking
it's great,
beers.
isn't it? That it's Germany as well.
Well, Germany are the big opposition, aren't they?
Yeah.
So to beat them in a final,
there's a big rivalry there, isn't there?
Final of
But
the
you went through that similar emotional roller coaster that you do with England. We get 1-0 up. You start to believe it could be, and then there's an equaliser. It goes to extra time. We're all looking at each other going, yeah, it's going to go to penalties and we're going to lose. But no, they did a great job.
Yeah, we didn't get to penalties, which I think that's the key.
Yeah,
if the men's team can learn anything from it, don't let it get to penalties.
Yeah, that was brilliant. And congratulations to all those goals. It was really compelling hearing some of the stories at the end of it when they were like, 2 years ago, some of them were still like TAs or working in restaurants and things like that. And obviously, I think the FA, Sky, a lot of them have done so much work to make, women's football so much more inclusive now. And the Premier League's really, really taken off. And you can see these girls have just given a snippet of an opportunity. And to go and win their Euros in their home stadium must be an amazing feeling. Can't imagine the celebrations last night.
But there's also the atmosphere. I think if you look back at the men's, I think at Wembley it got a little bit dirty and a bit ugly and a bit dark. But the women's, game was so much better. Such a family atmosphere. I haven't taken my 2 girls to see a football game, but I really regret not going to that if I'd had the opportunity, because it's I don't think we'll get a better opportunity to show them what.
So you could have gone down the road to Wembley. Now you're going to have to take them to some far-flung place like Tokyo to watch them play a final now.
Tokyo and your board 8 be bankrupt in 2023. Well, I had a heads off because I did because
it was such a good week.
Because watching the PGA Tour infuriated me because I actually really enjoy Tony Finau as well, and I thought it was great. Like Cantlay was coming through the pack at him. I'm starting to really, really start to become a bit of a fanboy of Cameron Young's, and the commentator every 3 shots said that shot was brought to you by Top Tracer using Top Tracer technology, and it rattled me after about the 18th time. I was like, what is going on here? Like, I understand you used to put an icon in the screen.
Is it something to do with the fact that we have a real issue doing the shot tracers for our shots?
I know, yeah, exactly.
It's all coming out now.
Yeah, technology's not that good.
Yeah.
Where are these guys getting it from?
I can do that. You used to put a graphic in the corner of the screen and just let me know by that. Like, what? So, what would you assume now that people don't read? Just go back to doing that. That's great. Really, really got my goat.
You're getting very upset. You're going red.
Yeah.
Well, that's another good thing about LIV. No adverts, no commercials, nothing. Solid golf.
Just shot tracers, and you can just see them.
Yeah, and it's obvious. It's a shot tracer.
Yeah. So,
although the thing about LIV that was starting to annoy me a little bit, do you hear the noise the ball makes when it goes in the cup?
Yes, there's a microphone in the bottom of the cup.
Is it? Or I thought someone's job was to just press this little recorded noise every time the ball goes, because it's the same noise. It's not like it rolls in the cup differently.
No,
it's genuinely.
We'll find out. We'll find out.
That's actually a really good point. If someone's there just pressing a button, signed a $5 million contract, it's part of Ferrety's deal. Press the button on time.
That's what happens if you get relegated out the top 48. Perez will be on buttons for sinking the holes next season.
Just jokes aside, though, David Ferrety was really good. He has some West Side analogies. I didn't write any of them down, but I mean, some of them were like, I think he was like, that green's as small as a teenager's first pimple. It's like some of them are just like so left field. But he definitely added some,
rising to the LIV occasion.
He definitely added some good patter to the coverage. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's probably been one of their best signings so far. So is anyone playing any golf this week?
Yeah.
James, you've got a tee time on Friday, right?
Got a tee time on Wednesday and Friday, yeah.
You're not playing Wednesday?
Oh, no, I need to go into town now and meet some people about a blockchain.
So you're going to play once. Nige, you're going to get on the course this week?
No, I'm Disney, unfortunately.
Disney, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a bit disheartened. I played golf twice last week.
Could you not sneak off? There's a really nice golf course near there called Chantilly, which is one of my favourite golf courses in Europe. If you can
Maybe.
sneak off.
I could do. I could say I'm off to queue for some ride. 6 hours later, come back. It was really good.
I'm off to the Indiana Jones one's a long queue. I'm off to Space Mountain. Where are you, Nigel? It's a great drive down 4.
So I think I've got another tee time on Friday, which I'm going to quite enjoy playing. I had a week off last week, a little bit, trying to actually, I'd like to have the feeling of wanting to play golf again. So I thought I'd take a few days off, watch all that golf over the weekend, and now I'm absolutely buzzing to play. We've also going to chat to Jack from JL this week. That'll be a nice little bonus podcast for us. We got another, and we got the Mark Raven podcast that he got to hang out with Tiger Woods during the JP McMahon's Pro-Am, and there were some really cool moments there. So we got that video up on
live,
up on YouTube, and you can now listen to what he had to say about that. Some really cool little points in there.
As we embark into August this month, which is the month of the Zane Leo Ryder, I am actually playing golf on Friday with my partner in the round 1 4 balls. So we're going to work on a bit of strategy. So
Yeah, good.
Me and AMAC will be taking on a couple of D-gens from Team Heath. But and also there's a video coming out this week, which if anybody hits the ball normal distances, don't watch, because it's I've just watched the final edit this morning of Josh's What's in the Bag. Yeah, there's a few 200-yard 7-irons in there. So be sure to tune in for that.
It's either an exciting watch or a depressing watch, depending on what perspective you take.
Yeah, element of both. It made me want to go to the gym and also dislike golf, so but love it at the same time.
Brilliant. Right, it's relatively long there. James keeps saying on all our stuff that there's something we need to do at the end of all our media outlets that we need to do. So I'm going to pass it across to James. What do you need to do? Where do you...
So you can find us if you're loving all of the chat, all of the content, then the best place to find us would be at
Ruffett House in Kingswood.
Linktree/Bear Tiger Club, and you'll be able to get everything there. Remember to like, comment and subscribe, and share our platform with everybody as we grow into the world of golf.
Very good. Like it. Any more, Nige? Any more questions? Any more chat?
No, I'm good. I enjoyed that.
Enjoy Disneyland, Nige. Just maybe you get really boozed up like early on and just start running havoc around the park. That would be awesome.
The responsible father role.
yeah. Well, Lou's going to enjoy it, isn't she? So
he's in charge.
Nice. All we require from you this week then is a picture of you standing next to Mickey.
Okay.
Please.
I can do that.
Perfect.
It's a lot cheaper than a bored ape.
Yeah, you don't have to buy your ape anymore. We just need that.
You can JPEG that.
Nice one. Right. Good chat, boys. See you
mate.
next week.
Cheers.
Bye.